Hello and most welcome to 2040 of the series. 2040! We will today continue with Terry Marks-Tarlow and companion Shapiro, Yakov Shapiro, with our Synchronicity, acausal connection, and the fractal dynamics of clinical practice. Last time we took a gander into acausal connection and how the self is porous. It is not a solid block. Its borders are porous. That meaning they could be malleable. You can enter into them. They allow for entrance, but they also allow for exit. We've discussed this many times before, how the endogenous enters into the exogenous, and how the exchange is through the fractality. The fractal observance. Fractality is what makes reading possible, and how understanding can come to the fore. How understanding is possible. How understanding constantly happens. And how that very development is so important, so utterly important for growth as a human being. And how these also connects the subjective to the out there objective. We earlier had the quadruple equation of Newton, and that lovely figure 1, on page 476. 476. There you have it. Figure 1. And here you can see how a lucky guess, or an educated guess rather, will bring you into the area of closeness to an understanding. And in the end, you will get, if you're close enough to the inner sides, you will get a definite objective answer. An objective answer. But if the guess is not that educated, not as clever or informed, you will strand up in an oscillation between sides and not entering into the objective. So the completely disjunct conception, the disjunct conception of a separate world, is in itself dependent on the subjective in a quite amazing way. In a quite amazing way. In a quite amazing way, without any doubt whatsoever. So it's a bit, you can have the cookie and still eat it. Although this is the very build-up of reality itself. This is from where it all stems, where it all starts. In the entering of the subjective into the objective realm, but in this rather guessing, intuitive way. Not registering like a video camera or something similar to that. No. Not the left hemisphere take on absolute representation. No, not at all. Nothing of that sort. No, it's the re-entering and entering of the subjective realm into the outer. The exogenous stretching into the endogenous, and vice versa, and vice versa. And vice versa. Entering and re-entering, coming inside and coming outside. And I think this is grand in a way, because it fully, in a way, accepts the Cartesian split between inner and outer, inside and outside, as well as being able to clearly depict why the subjective is so important. And one more clue why everything turned completely Newtonian on you. Why? What is happening? Everything turning Newtonian. One of the reasons for that is that once you ended up with a result, a correct one from a more educated guess, that would be wholly objective from all perspectives, no matter what. It will be completely accessible for everyone on the planet, and therefore giving the shape and the idea that it is coming from the objective wholly. From the reductionist standpoint, that solution is, I'd say, inevitable without fractality. And might I add, quantum theory, quantum mechanics. Which also comes into the play. I will not continue on page 481. 481. Acausal connection is the sub-rubric. The sub-rubric. The sub-rubric is acausal connection. And we're into the second paragraph on that sub-rubric. On page 481. When applied to psychological space, semi-isolated selves may show correlations with each other or the wider informational reality non-locally. 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 They may share information in a non-local participatory mode rather than through local interactive information exchange. Local interactive information exchange. When acausal connection takes the form of synchronicity. Synchronicity. The identity of the whole serves to unify inner and outer worlds, mind and matter, mind and matter, mind and matter. Due to full interpenetration between realms. When two seemingly unconnected events happen simultaneously, we perceive them to be acausally connected to one another through hidden self-similar channels of meaning. Through hidden self-similar channels of meaning. Of meaning. Of meaning. Consider the Mandelbrot set, granddaddy of all fractals. Yeah, we can see how self-similar representations of the whole keep recurring when the image is magnified within various areas of this mathematical set. Of this mathematical set. Because fractal patterns occur not only in physical, but also in psychological space. Very important. The same apply to our psychological space. as well as across time. This diagram reveals how a synchronistic universe might operate as islands of local order are interconnected and reappear beneath broad expanses of apparent disorder. Apparent disorder. Apparent disorder. We could picture psychobiological reality as a vast, four-dimensional Mandelbrot set where conscious subjectivities form an inseparable part of the reality they experience. They experience. And the iterations of matter-mind informational processes unfold in similar ways across spatial and temporal domains. And temporal domains. Figure 2, I'll read the text to the figure. The Mandelbrot set pictured here is endlessly deep and believed to be the most complex mathematical object in the universe. In the universe. Black zones represent areas where the equation settles to a finite number, with white zones representing places where it runs off to infinity, to infinity, to infinity, forever, forever, beyond, more and more beyond. The fractal edge consists of the dynamic boundary zone between these two areas. These two areas, depicting endless complexity in the spaces between ordered and chaotic realms. In each of four quadrants, A, B, C, and D, self-similar patterns reappear unpredictably over and over again as small areas of the set are magnified, such that the shape of the whole is represented within the shape of the parts. within the shape of the parts. Conclusion. This paper examined uncanny synchronistic information sharing across seemingly separate subjectivities, across expanses in time and or distances in space. All over, it's scale independent, both when it comes to time and space. A fractal epistemology suggests porous, observer-dependent psychophysical boundaries that simultaneously separate and connect spaces between self and other and self and world. Self and world. Self and world. Isn't that amazing? So in this scale independency, we also get scale and fixed points. Looking at the four quadrants, you should also associate to the Chandraskoti, especially depicted by Nagarjuna, where you have is not, and is together, and is not, and is neither of. You get another quadrant, and that is so depictive of the world at large, the world in the larger perspective. In the larger perspective. In the larger perspective. In the larger perspective, going beyond, coming beneath, expanding, in this enlargement, the physical and psychological reality come together. The prime informational substrate of physical and psychological reality manifests as a fractal meta pattern that permeates self-similar, scale invariant psychophysical threads from micro and macro domains of the physical world to the subjective and intersubjective processes of mind, of mind. the great Nobel Prize winner. The great Nobel Prize winning physicist Richard Feynman suggested that nature uses only the longest threads to weave her patterns, so that each small piece of her fabric reveals the organization of the entire tapestry. Of the entire tapestry. Of the entire tapestry. Of the entire tapestry. Our subjective experiences stretches out into the world, only to fall upon itself again. Physical and psychological events unfold and re-unfold recursively upon themselves, revealing self-similar patterns at multiple levels of organization. Within psychotherapy, attention to a fractal epistemology opens new and deeper realms between seemingly separate subjectivities in the analytic space. In the analytic space. In addition to verbal, non-verbal, local interactive information exchange that enables the intersubjective dialogue, infinitely deep fractal boundaries underlie non-local participatory information sharing. Both between the participants and within the wider physical reality. Within the wider physical reality. While fractal consciousness facilitates the operation of clinical intuition, fractal edges of the psyche enable the melding of two intersubjectivities within a dynamic transsubjective interplay. Transsubjective interplay. Interplay. Intersubjectively, intersubjectively with one another, and interobjectively with the world at large. Due to the self-similar, fully interpenetrating quality of fractal seams, people are best positioned to experience the deep meta patterns of reality at the edge of chaos, at the edge of chaos. In far from equilibrium, arousal states. Arousal states. These holistic qualities may manifest in uncanny occurrences that involve psychophysical phenomena such as telepathic, clairvoyant, precognitive, and synchronistic events. Synchronistic events. Far from being non-physical or unscientific, these events may herald the emergence of a new non-reductive paradigm in natural and clinical sciences. Non-reductive paradigm in natural and clinical sciences, which transcends the Cartesian dualism of mind versus material reality. Material reality. Puts subjective and objective phenomena on an equal informational ground. On an equal informational ground. As therapists, we believe it is invaluable to be mindful of intuitive knowing and uncanny experiences, especially when patients ripe for change hover at high arousal levels at the edge of chaos, at the edge of chaos. At the edge of chaos. Precisely because as therapists, we work with people in crisis and hone our use of fractal consciousness in clinical settings. We are uniquely positioned to glimpse underlying wholeness beneath surface fragmentation of physical and psychological reality. Psychological reality. Psychophysical reality. Intuitive knowing and uncanny experiences remind us that we live in a unus mundus where subjective worlds of meaning continually interpenetrate with each other and with their wider informational reality to form a tapestry of self-similar connections across apparent divides of inner, outer, mind, matter, psychological, physical, and micro, macro domains. The relational paradigm can now expand into the physiological reality of body, brain, and wider material world to facilitate a two-way dialogue with our patients. With our patients. With our patients. Our subjectivities form distinct, semi-isolated selves that only appear separate from each other and the world at large. The world at large. The world at large. We are all bound by the web of sensory, local, interactive connections that underlie emphatic and implicit relational knowing. And by extrasensory, non-local, participatory sharing that manifests in uncanny and synchronistic experiences. Synchronistic experiences. Synchronistic experiences. So that ends my reading of Terence Marks-Tarlow, and Yakov Shapiro's lovely article. And I will now take some quotes. let's go for some lovely quotes. We have some quotes here. Let's go for those and have a gander at what can be around the corner. Let's have a look, see what is around the corner. Let's have a look, see what is around the corner. As you see, when you magnify in on the Mandelbrot set, you will see that what looks like fragmentations, the perturbances, if you like, are form of the same shape. And here, very importantly, that shape is the whole as well as the parts. And that goes for both space and time. Why is it the whole? Well, in the shape universe, what counts is the shape of things, not really size and place. So when you zoom in, as I do here, I was hopefully thinking, zoom in. Maybe better to zoom in here. So you see here, the same shape means the same place in the universe. How odd might seem, because it's not place, it's not time that counts. It is the complexity of the shape, which is the telltale sign of where you are in the zooming in process. And the Mandelbrot set is the most complex set in the whole of the universe, because it's literally endless. Neither does it have a normal way of a beginning or an end, although ends and beginnings are included in the Mandelbrot set. They are participatory. In what comes to the fore, what develops, what comes out of the whole commundle. This becomes clearer as we deepen, zoom in and zoom out. And the zooming in, I would say, that is the action of the self. It's the participatory effect of us being there, doing things, acting, existing. I'll go for some quotes here, and you can also see here how this doesn't really defy the Cartesian cut, but widens it, makes it porous, so that the connection between the self and other is rather like osmosis and not a fixed object dumped into reality without no clear connection to anything in before, after, or at place. Almost like we were not connected to reality at all. And the similarity in moments, this is going to be more quantum mechanical. Going to page 481 here. 481. 481. Second paragraph under the sub-rubric acausal connection. Similarity of events. Remember that in quantum mechanics, it is a matter of events, not time and space where events are sort of formed in a posteriori way. No, the events come first. Those are the most important ones. And you can compare fractality to event. After that, you can have some sort of weighing, comparing, and you will understand that there is also a construction of time and space after that fact. Having two, you can construct some sort of scale, but the truer sense will still be present. In the doings that happens here and nowhere else. This is also to be compared to psychological space, the insideness, if you like, or can also be in the limiting zones where we have the fractal borders of the self. So we need not exclusively still use the word inside. We can also understand that in the borderline, in the frontiers, that is enough to read off and to give off information as well. It can do both things. And two events to have self-similarity, or not self-similarity, but iterative similarity. Two events. Can you see here now that the two events, almost need to put myself on the camera. The two events are connected together. There are a combination of time and space. This combination of time and space are a sort of similarity between the two happenings. And remember, not happenings in time, but two fractalities, if you like. Two parts of the Mandelbrot set. Even better, I think, yeah. Here, you will be able to observe a similarity. That is synchronicity. The two things. I try to put that on the whiteboard. So to say, you have one thing here, it looks like this. It's a constellation of fractality. Oh, it's rather easy to draw fractality, looking like that. And here you have a similar fractality. So one goes into the other. This is synchronicity. The similarity makes for two events to be connected. Like for instance, in the case of Sam, where the therapist mentioning the ostrich brings her to mind that her father calls himself an ostrich when it came to women in his relation to the other sex. And this also goes for psychological space. We no longer need to think of psychology or the psychological side. So I need to clear all this. So no longer we need to be kept with this model. The real world here, put an object on the other side, a sharp line. Here we have the subject depicted by a head. So that one doesn't have to be an inner psychological mirroring function of what's outside, almost like, excuse me, René Descartes thought. No, the psychological is as well fractal in its nature. So no need any longer to bring in this unnecessary psyche, which is also close to the Wittgensteinian black box, where we don't know the contents. We have no idea what could be inside. Anything. Anything is quite possible. And as something of which we can say nothing and know nothing is the same as a nothing. So off goes the black box and the psyche. And instead we have the wonderful fractality of Benoit Mandelbrot, and in this example expounded by Terence Marks-Tarlow and Yakov Shapiro. It's just great. I do like it. And it also shows the bordering zones between the bordering zones between chaos and order. Instead of an idea of being order slowly, there's an absolute distinction between order and disorder. Instead of thinking it that way, we can see that there are the better guesses that I mentioned before in figure 1 here. I'll find it again. Yeah. The better guesses coming closer to here, and the less educated guesses coming out and striding in an isolation. Here you see a development going from chaos to order without there being any strict, complete cuts here or distinctions in that grotesquely sharp way as expounded by René Descartes. Go to page 483. We can also have a look-see at I do like that Richard Feynman is also mentioned here. He suggested that nature uses only the longest threads to weave her patterns so that each small piece of her fabric reveals the organization of the entire tapestry. In a grain of sand, the whole world is exposed. In a singular moment, eternity is there. Those are all pointing to how the small is recurring in the big, and the big is actually recurring in the small. There's also mentioning here further down, due to the self-similar, fully interpenetrating, it's the third paragraph. Due to the self-similar, fully interpenetrating quality of fractal scenes, people are best positioned to experience the deep meta patterns of reality at the edges of chaos, in far from equilibrium arousal states. These holistic qualities may manifest in uncanny occurrences, the synchronicities. These synchronicities, they evolve from there. They are the similarity of two events, because we are not parted by time and space. Time and space is rather gluttonous, gluing everything together, not separating. They are not threats to our existence, they are our friends. And with this happy note, I will end the reading of the article and thank you for listening in. And thank you also, Marks-Tarlow and Yakov Shapiro, for a wonderful article. Have a very pleasant morning, day, afternoon, or night. Bye bye for now.